stayed here, it really actually spurred me to want to go to graduate school, because what I learned here was really practical. What I'm learning in graduate school is very theoretical. So being here was actually really useful for knowing what I wanted to do next, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So it was kind of nice to have this foundation of very practical information and really interesting stuff too. Like there are a lot of things that we learned that I won't really ever use again, like how this plant changes its leaves or something, but it was really interesting. Throughout the semester, very, very interesting. Well, for my graduate program, I have to write a thesis to graduate, and my directed research project with Sergio, well, it was really interesting for me because I was just really interested with the data that we were doing, but also last spring we were the first students to work on that project, so for some reason I felt like we had ownership over the project. So when we were doing the statistics and trying to see if things had relationship or if they worked, and sometimes it didn't because we didn't have that many participants, or maybe it would have if we had more, so being able to do my thesis with research I had already started and felt like I was kind of an owner of was just really attractive, and I really wanted to come back and see if things that we did start would actually be significant because we had more participants, and then also just being able to talk to people that lived in a different town, because we started in Jaco and Herradura, and then we got to go to Tarcoles this time around, and so that was just really an awesome opportunity to be able to tie in my theoretical background in grad school and the thesis that I would have to write for that with the practical stuff that I had already began and really wanted to continue, because it was really interesting the first time around. It was great. Of course, it was great. It was very interesting to be able to participate in something I had started, as I said, but for some reason I felt like I was participating in a different way. I'm not exactly sure why, because I was really playing the same role, like still interviewing and still meeting with Sergio and trying to figure out, well, what statistics am I supposed to be doing, but for some reason it felt like I was participating differently. And so yeah, overall that was great. And of course, just being able to be here is really wonderful because Costa Rica is so awesome. Definitely going to be using it for writing my thesis. I've kind of already started with that process, which is good, and eventually, after working on that, Sergio and I are going to work together on making a joint paper, and ideally it will be accepted into a scientific journal, and we'll be able to publish our results that we found. Actually, I think that this research experience will be really helpful, and in two different ways. First, the actual research experience itself, like learning how to research and steps that you do need to take, and especially when you're working with people, like informed consent and just understanding that they might not want to answer things or might feel uncomfortable. I think that that's just really important experience in any, because after this, I'm going to be looking for a job. So I think it's important to know how to relate to people, and hopefully maybe I could get a job with researching. But then on the other hand, the data that I'm dealing with is with waste management problems and trying to get people to act better, more pro-environmentally with their waste management behaviors. And I would really like to work my hometown and make my hometown a more, I want to say, sustainable place, I guess. So I think that it would be really interesting to see what these results are going to be, because maybe learning what is applicable here in Costa Rica might be useful for looking into things that are going to be applicable from where I'm from in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure. I hope so, though. I would highly suggest this program to any student that has any interest in Central America, Latin America, the developing world, sustainability issues, the environment, ecology. 100%. But I think that the part that is most persuasive to come to do this program is actually the research part, especially for the students that directed research. I mean, that was a really, really cool experience. I really loved it. I liked being able to feel like I was in charge of my data, and I was doing something with it, and when I was writing the paper, it was like, oh, yes, I'm finding things, and I think that was a really good learning experience overall. Whereas in classrooms, I mean, you learn things and you study and know them for exams and are able to apply them in papers, but you don't own that knowledge. Whereas here, I feel like you kind of have ownership over some of the knowledge you walk away with.